I'd like to speak today about a topic in the Saṁyutta Nikaya that has many teachings around it. There's about 40 plus suttas that are about this topic being the danger of gain, of honor, of praise, of renown, of power, of privilege. So I think these suttas are very relevant to us always and really worth exploring together. In the Book of Causation, chapter 17, Lābhasakkāra Saṁyutta, is the connected discourses on gains and honor. So I'd like to give a few excerpts from these teachings. There's actually 4 chapters of teachings on this topic. Many similes, many ways of investigating the Buddha's teaching in this area. But you could say they're all pointing to the same straightforward teaching. So I'll give you that straightforward teaching to start with, which is to be found right in the very first sutta, very clearly stated. So if you like to relax, open your ears to the Dhamma. I'll begin by paying homage to our teacher, the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang namang sangha namasami. So here we go. First teaching in this chapter on gains and honor. And the first teaching in this section is called Dreadful. And I'm reading Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation. The Buddha was dwelling at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove in Athapindika's Park. There the Blessed One addressed the bhikkhus thus. Monks, Venerable Sir, those bhikkhus replied. The Blessed One said this. Friends, dreadful are gain, honor, and praise. Bitter, vile, obstructive to achieving the unsurpassed security from bondage. That is our goal, obstructive to the path of practice. Therefore, monks, you should train yourselves thus. We will abandon the arisen gain, honor, and praise. And we will not let any arisen gain, honor, and praise persist, obsessing our minds. Thus you should train yourselves. So friends, this is the core teaching of this whole section of Saṁyutta Nikāya on gain and honor. The Buddha goes on in many teachings to give similes to try to help us to perceive, to understand the danger here. There's a sutta here called the Hook, where the Buddha compares gain, honor, and praise to like a fish who gets hooked by the bait and caught by the fisherman. And he says, in this case, the fisherman is Mara, is delusion. And the bait is gain, honor, and praise. Don't fall for it. Don't get hooked. Don't think this is worth grasping. Let it go. Don't touch it. Rather, don't get near it. Danger. There's a sutta called the Turtle, where the Buddha compares gain, honor, and praise as like a turtle who is warned not to go to a certain place, but who nevertheless goes into the dangerous territory and doesn't really realize quite what's happening, but somehow he's been hit, he's been caught, a cord is attached to his shell, and he comes back and he's told, you're no longer able to stay here, friend, you've been caught, you're snared. We have to be very careful, friends, with gain, honor, and praise, with power, with privilege. with advantage, because they can be very invisible for us, can't they? Those who have not the privilege, not the opportunities, not the ability to swim with the current, they're not accepted or they're not acknowledged in the same way as those in privileged positions. It's very obvious to them. They can see how people can be trapped by their privilege. But for those who are actually reaping the benefits, going with the current view, the current good situation, the power, the prestige, very, very difficult for us to recognize that we may be snared, we may be caught. We need to work hard sometimes to recognize the danger here. There's another sutta where the Buddha compares gain, honor, and praise as like a very hairy she-goat who foolishly goes amongst the briars and gets caught up, trapped, and completely, in the end, in danger because impossible to escape. And the famous sutta of the dung beetle is here in this section, where the Buddha compares the one who relishes privilege to like a dung beetle who happens to have come upon a great big pile of poo and is so delighted, so thrilled, and so puffed up with pride because of their good fortune. What we do when we have good fortune, isn't it? We often assume that we've somehow earned it, would somehow deserve it. It's our right, it's our privilege, and we deserve it, and we're responsible for the good things that have happened for us, the good conditions that we experience. And here's the hook, here's the snare, because as soon as we start to take credit, then we're truly lost. Like the hairy she-goat in the briar patch, we're trapped. It's very, very difficult for us to let go of these delusions. But of course, delusions they are, as we all know. And let's not be like a dung beetle, rejoicing at the sufficiency of dung that they've managed to find through good fortune, through past good karma. When we have fortunate conditions, when we're privileged, we don't want to take it for granted. We don't want to own it. We want to let go of that sense of self around advantage, because otherwise we're going to cause harm, because we're going to be blinkered, we're going to be blinded by our privilege. We need to be able to let go of that identification in order to see the bigger picture. And of course, the bigger picture, as you all know, is that when some are privileged and others are not, there is strife, there is turmoil, there is great harm. The harm is in that paradigm. The harm is inherent to that inequity. There's bound to be trouble, and how much trouble there can be. Going on, more suttas, the Buddha comparing gain, honor, and praise to a thunderbolt, to a poisoned dart. He gives a simile here of an old jackal afflicted with a disease called mange, which creates terrible itchiness. This poor old jackal, wherever they go, whether into a cave or to the foot of a tree or to the open air, wherever they go, wherever they stand or sit or lie down, they are meeting with calamity and distress. There's no getting away from it. In the same way, a monk whose mind is overcome and obsessed with gain, honor, and praise does not feel at ease wherever they go, whatever circumstances they're in. They are uncomfortable, they are agitated, they are restless. So how interesting. The benefits are apparent. The gratification, we could say, is apparent in privilege, in wealth, in status, and so forth, when we're honored and supported and empowered in whatever way. There is clearly some gratification to that, but here we can see, like the vulture with mange, that there is also the other side. There is the danger, and that danger is that we can never really relax. We can never really feel safe. We always have the perception of enemies around us. Why? Because we're unfairly, unjustly benefiting at the expense of others. So where there's inequity, where there's privilege and therefore underprivilege, there's always going to be that sense of, yes, enjoyment of privilege, but also the uneasiness, the unsettledness of the kind of knowing that this is not quite right, this is not quite suitable, this is not the way forward. To be benefiting at the expense of others is always going to lead to a kind of restless, fearful, perhaps we could even say neurotic attitude to the holding to that privilege, to holding our position, our land, our power, our resources, and so much harm and suffering come about as a result of those who are privileged having this kind of fear, having this need to defend, having this need to lash out, often at others who are not really the cause of this unease. The cause of the unease is not the underprivileged. The cause of the unease is in the heart of the privileged, who will do almost anything to keep, maintain, uphold their benefits that they're experiencing. And we can see this, of course, in the world around us. Reading the news, it's there for us to contemplate and to feel the fear of this, to feel the sense of danger here, the terrible danger of gain, honor, praise, power, privilege. How harmful for our hearts, how liable we are to create harm and suffering because of our grasping of these so-called benefits. The Buddha compares gain, honor and praise, privilege, to being like a bird flying in the sky when the gale winds come, the gale force winds, the strong winds that buffet and beats the bird around and throw it off course. The Buddha gives a verse. He says, whether one is showered with honor or shown dishonor, or offered both praise and blame, one's concentration should not vacillate. Dwell in the measureless state. So this is our guidance from the Buddha, to be awake to advantage, to the worldly winds of praise and blame, of good repute and ill repute, you could say of privilege and lack of privilege, to wake up to this, to see the bigger picture and not to allow ourselves to identify with any position whatsoever. And in this way we can maintain, equanimity. And we can also, when we look around us and see how much pain and suffering comes about as a result of people identifying with privilege or underprivilege, we can have a lot of compassion for this, recognizing that obviously those who are disempowered are suffering terribly sometimes, life-threateningly sometimes. Sometimes people we can see in the world right now not even having the basic ability to survive and be safe. And we can also see that those who are privileged, empowered, reaping the benefits at this point in time, how much they are suffering because of the uneasiness, because of the restlessness, because of the fear inherent in their privileged state, and because of the harm that they are able to do, because they have the ability to do anything they can to hold on to their privileges. The harm that they can do is really immeasurable. So what a terrible predicament, what a perilous state to be holding to any kind of privilege whatsoever. The Buddha goes on in the second chapter of this collection of teachings on the dangers of gain, honor, and praise. He goes on to speak about monastics he's known. So in the lifetime of the Buddha, he's telling us he knew many different monastics who would never tell a lie intentionally for any reason whatsoever, even to preserve their own life. And such people, again and again, he's speaking of such monastics with their minds overcome and obsessed by gain, honor, and praise, telling a deliberate lie, losing their virtue, their brightness, their goodness. So dreadful, again, honor and praise. The Buddha tells of lay women wishing to go forth into the holy life, lay men wishing to go forth. Example of a lay woman here whose mother is giving her wise, loving advice, and she says to her daughter who wishes to become a bhikkhuni, good, you should become like the bhikkhunis Kema and Upalawana. This is the standard and criterion for female disciples who are bhikkhunis. And while you're a trainee, my dear, one who has not yet reached her mind's ideal, may gain, honor, and praise not come upon you. What a blessing. If we want to really bless one another, we can say, good friend, may you not receive gain, honor, and praise. May you not be privileged. May you not be powerful. May you not have status in the world. Recognizing that all of these things are not inherently wrong, although inequity is a cause of great suffering in the world. They're not inherently wrong. You're not inherently wrong to be privileged, but you are harming yourself as soon as you fall for that and identify with it and take any sense of encouragement from these very ephemeral, very uncertain experiences of privilege. The Buddha goes on, sutta after sutta, describes gain, honor, and praise as like a cord that's cutting through the skin to the sinews, to the bone, and right through into the marrow. So this is something quite important to recognize, that sometimes these identifications with our place, our position, our status can be so profound. It can be very, very difficult for us to perceive, to experience, to appreciate the privilege that we may have, and also exceedingly difficult to let it go. We talk about the fragile ego of those who are privileged and advantaged. Very difficult to see and even more difficult to let go. So this is something to be really aware of in ourselves. And just keep patiently working with any sense of self around advantage or disadvantage, to be gentle but persistent in unpacking our identification here. Takes time, takes effort. The effort must be made. The Buddha goes on to speak about Devadatta. Devadatta was the Buddha's cousin, as many of you know, who created a schism in the Sangha. And in these series of suttas, the Buddha's talking about how The reason that Devadatta created a schism in the Sangha was because of gain, honor, and praise, because he got obsessed and attached to his status, obsessed with it and deeply identified with it. And in this way, Devadatta's wholesome root was cut off. His wholesome nature was cut off. His bright nature was cut off. It's a bit like the story of the fallen angel, Lucifer, in the Christian tradition, isn't it? And Mara, also in the Buddhist tradition. Mara, Devadatta, great beings, beings with great brightness. Mara is a deva, a high, angelic, divine being. Even so, the danger of identifying with that kind of privilege, that kind of beauty, that kind of brightness, the wholesomeness even, if we identify with that and make that ours, how dangerous, how dangerous, how dangerous to be praised by others and uplifted by others, and even more, how dangerous to have self-praise going on, to think of ourselves in any way as superior to others. As soon as we do this, conceit, this pride, this conceit comes in, and we've lost the plot. Again, we're just rolling around in delusion and wasting our time, wasting our precious life, not able to practice. So we need to wake up, to also the commentary that goes on within us, and the likelihood actually that we're identifying with our good traits as much as our bad traits and investing them with self. All of this is to be let go of. All of this is to be seen through. So I think I've covered the aspects of these suttas that I wanted to share with you. And we can now just open up to considering the teaching as a whole. I think I've said quite a bit about the dangers of identifying with our good fortune, with our privilege, with power, and the risk really of not only this causing great harm to our spiritual potential, to our ability to practice, to our ability to free our hearts from suffering, but also there's the great danger of harming others, almost without realizing sometimes, almost inadvertently. One can fail to recognize the harm and suffering of those who are less privileged, less powerful. And people talk at the moment about this way in which we can see peoples dehumanizing one another. To the extent this delusion can root into the heart, the hook can go deep, the twine or the cord of the danger of identifying with praise and power and privilege can cut right through to the marrow. Just in these ways, people can be so invested in their positions that they can lose all empathy, all shared sense of humanity with others, and how dangerous, how there's almost no harm that isn't possible when this happens, when we place ourselves above another, the other, make other out of our common humanity, our predicament that we all share. We're all in it together, aren't we? And as soon as we separate out, we're going to create enormous suffering. The separating out happens because of inequity, because of identification with place, position, personhood. So these suttas, as all the teachings of the Buddha, are so relevant for us, and there's so much we can glean from these teachings. And there is, of course, the guidance there for us. There is like the way to take heart and take in the Dhamma and find our way forward through a very confused, a very chaotic, a very crazy samsaric experience. There is so much suffering in the world. We can't change the world externally, but we can certainly investigate deeply the world here and purify it, friends. Root out conceit, root out the dangerous tendency to identify with our experience and let it flow by. And then we can see from that resourced place of degree of wisdom, degree of insight, and a degree, therefore, of peace and well-being. We can then look around us with great love, great compassion, great tenderness, and with great equanimity, and see how beings are creating so much harm and suffering through not having the guidance, not having the ability to look within and root out the suffering there. All the suffering in the world around us comes from the suffering right here. So let's be, for ourselves, for this one, practicing with energy, with effort. Keep taking in the teachings of the Buddha. Be guided by these Dhamma teachings and keep letting go of suffering wherever we meet it. And be a beacon of light in the world. Be a person of peace. Be a mender of discord. Be someone who promotes harmony and does everything in their power to help, to resolve, to bring in light, bring in peace to situations of harm and suffering in this world. Ewan.